New York State's prison system is at the center of a divide between those charged with guarding the inmates and others who say abuse against prisoners is out of control. This as some corrections officers refuse for a 9th straight day to return to work. Among their demands, the repeal of a law known as the HALT Act. Gio Battaglia joined us with more on the story. Gio.
Teresa, the HALT Act went into effect across the state in 2022 and requires all prisoners be let out of their cells every day for at least 7 hours and limits the amount of solitary confinement time any inmate can get. Correction officers say it limits inmate discipline that they have said make their jobs harder. Inmates call it a saving grace. It's really frustrating being retaliated against for trying to get what you're entitled to and not being able to get it because an officer doesn't like you or isn't his or her feelings that day. That's how a statement from an anonymous individual incarcerated at Clinton Prison in Dannemora, New York starts. The inmate going on to say the strike by correction officers is, quote, nothing but an attempt to distract from the increased scrutiny of officer brutality. Also saying the National Guard is here all because the officers got caught beating the brother at Marcy to death. The HALT Solitary campaign says the HALT Act has forced positive changes that have saved lives and reduced torture, and there is still consequences for violence within the facility. Day one of the strike was on February 17th, 3 days before 10 correction officers were charged with murder and the beating death of Robert Brooks. Those who walked off the job nearly 10 days ago say there's a need for operational changes, including the suspension of the HALT Act due to staffing crisis. Jennifer is a wife of a correction officer and says that the act has increased uncertainty and danger for officers since it was introduced, and says it has affected her family.
It's not holding the inmates accountable because it's taking away the officers' rights. It's changed the way our family interacts because we're concerned about how, if he's coming home or not.
Governor Hochul said Tuesday the state is doing everything they can to get correction officers back to work and agreed staffing was a barrier to carrying out provisions of the law and temporarily suspended parts of the HALT Act. Jennifer says she wants to see more done.
They're just trying to figure out how to threaten the officers to get them back to work. Puts the ownership back with the prisons and the leadership.
State Senator Dan Steck proposed an amendment to repeal the HALT Act that was voted down earlier today. Governor Hochul says the state is determined to find a resolution as soon as possible.